Roadshow News Recap starts right now. Honda is once again our lead story. The 2022 Civic Si was just unveiled. It is slightly more powerful than before, and of course, a bit sportier than your run-of-the-mill Civics. Beyond that, Tesla dominates the EV market, and new vehicle registrations prove that. Chevy teased the upcoming Corvette Z06, and we'll see what we can glean from the little video the Bowtie brand shared. And finally, the Nissan Leaf all-electric hatchback. Well, it may transform into an SUV, but we've got the scoop on that and a whole lot more. Happy Friday, everyone. And Sean, it's great to see you once again, and it's great to be back.
Yes, welcome back, Craig. Craig is here. For those of you who missed Craig, here he is, right here. He's back in the house. But yes, happy Friday indeed. Glad to be here as always.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody missed me. I don't miss me, but you're stuck with me because I'm back again. So for better or worse.
Dang it.
Before we dive in, like and subscribe if you want. If you're feeling generous, it helps us out. If you don't, I can't blame you. But if you're feeling generous, hit the like button and, of course, subscribe. But Honda Civic Si, Sean, you are a Honda enthusiast. This car, it doesn't look exciting, but I'm excited about it. What's your take?
Yeah, I'm more excited about this car than I think I was the last generation one, even though this is certainly evolutionary in terms of the Si package. The big pieces of this car are basically the same, in terms of the powertrain and stuff. But overall, this is like a spicier version of the very good 11th generation Civic. And that's a good place to start, is the 11th gen Civic, and then make it more sporty or sportier, whatever the correct grammatical way of saying that is.
Yes. Yeah. I was just in the 11th gen Civic hatchback, which is just the standard model. I had one with the turbo engine and the 6-speed manual, and it was absolutely lovely. It was, it felt super refined. The interior is practically luxury. It's so nice. I wouldn't go so far as to say luxury, but it's getting close. Comfortable, it drives well, and it's a lot of fun. So obviously the Civic Si should deliver all of that and a whole lot more. But it doesn't look particularly sporty because this is a step between the standard model and the Type R, obviously, but it's definitely visually a lot more similar to the standard Civic than the Type R.
Yeah, I'm a little bummed out by that, especially because, Honda killed the Civic Coupe, and the Civic Coupe definitely looked the part, the previous generation Civic Coupe Si. The sedan was, like the 10th gen. It was like, you could tell it was an Si, but it was definitely more mild. And this is very mild, in my opinion. Not a lot differentiates it unless you're looking for like the dual exhaust and the slightly revised, shapelier look up front. But yeah, I wish they did a little bit more, because it's not scratching that itch for me for an Si, in my opinion. It seems to be the Type R is going to be super wild. The standard car is, appealing to a very broad audience. I feel like there was a little bit more wiggle room to do something more with the Si to make it look more the part.
Yeah, exactly. At least, though, you do get larger brakes. There are standard 18-inch wheels that should have a matte finish. And there's a freer flowing exhaust system. So little tweaks that do separate it from the standard car, even though it's still mostly mainstream here. You do get the 1.5-liter turbo, which is good for 200 horsepower in this application, which apparently is 5 less than in the previous Si, which is a bit of a step backwards. You do get 192 pounds of torque, though Honda claims the power band is broader, which is very un-Honda-like, as someone with an S2000 would know, Sean. Honda's famous for its high-winding engines, and more torque at lower speeds is just... No, they don't do that.
Yeah,
that's not what Honda does.
Craig, I know, once one show, I think we were talking about the new Honda Passport, and I was like, I'm not a big fan of the Pilot or the Passport. And you're like, oh, there's a Honda you don't like. And I was like, actually, I'm not a ginormous fan of like many modern Honda vehicles because I don't think they're as good as they can be. Just in my opinion, and that is coming from somebody who has loved Hondas for a very, very long time. Um, but yeah, and I'll add to that list, I did not like the previous generation Civic Si in sedan or coupe form. I thought it was too anonymous when you drove it. It
Hmm.
looked the part, I liked how it looked, and it wasn't bad to drive, but while driving it, I was like, you can get this similar sensation in a used vehicle, specifically like a Ford Focus ST, you know?
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
Civic Si is affordable, and that's really great because the last one started around like 25,000 dollars, which is pretty cheap for the performance you get in the package. But I couldn't help but wonder, I'm like, is your money best served somewhere else? Just because that 1.5 turbo was super torquey. I mean, it was so quick off the line. Just basically the antithesis of what I think of when I think like SI or Integra GSR, which was zero power down low, gotta work for it, wind it out, and then all of a sudden, you get some momentum going, from those high winding engines back in the day. So I was a little bummed to see that the 1.5 turbo is still here. It's not a surprise. I didn't think they were going to be like, oh, we're going to tune the 2.0 liter instead. They wouldn't
Yeah.
have done that. But
No.
I think what may save this car is, I believe they said Honda implemented a much lighter flywheel. So hopefully that will help with things.
Yes. I mean, I didn't find the 1.5 turbo in the standard Civic to be a problem. It was plenty zippy and seemed willing to rev. Although the one thing I think could be improved, the clutch pedal was a little bit too light.
Mhm.
Just like I don't want like leg press day. I don't need that for a clutch pedal, but a little bit of starch helps you feel the engagement point, and when it's too light, it can be a little bit iffy sometimes till you get the feel of the car. And so I wish it
Mhm.
was just a little bit more starch to the pedal. But then the bigger issue was, and this is not exclusive to Honda, when you would downshift to try and slow down, there's zero engine braking. There is absolutely nothing. Like the car, you can step on the clutch and the car will coast at the same speed as if you've got it in like third gear. And I think they do that for emissions. And again, it's not just Honda, but it was just like, why are you, why? I want to slow down. I'm coming up to a corner and I get nothing. So sorry, end of rant. But the new Civic Si standard 6-speed manual gearbox. So hooray for that. Shorter shift throws and supposedly firmer mounting points for the linkages and stuff. So that should be good. And of course, that lighter flywheel, which you had mentioned, Sean. And for purity's sake, no automatic. And I am all for
There you
that.
go. Yeah, it's, SI stands for sport injected. So good on Honda, for keeping the stick alive. I mean, even in the standard Civic, you can get a hatch with a stick shift. That's where they're still
Yeah.
offering it. I actually owned a 10th generation Civic sedan with a stick when that was an option, and it was perfectly great to drive around. It wasn't the best stick clutch combo I'd driven from Honda or in a particular vehicle, but it's still really good. Honda knows what they're doing,
Mhm.
particularly when it comes to that. Despite the lightness and stuff like that, sometimes I kind of don't mind that, because if you're daily driving it, you definitely don't want something like too heavy, because then that's just obnoxious to drive in traffic. I'm thinking
Mhm.
of, if people see the Chevy SS photos over my shoulder sometimes, that clutch was goofy. Sometimes it felt like heavier, but other times it was crazy light. And I owned that car for a long time, and I still don't think I could ever
Hmm.
catch where the clutch point was perfect, kind of thing.
Hmm.
But regardless, all I'm
Bizarre.
saying is sometimes a light clutch isn't bad, in my opinion. But yeah.
Yeah. Predictably, plenty of chassis changes to the SI. The usual suspects, though, nothing outrageous. So they're talking stiffer springs. You get starchier stabilizer bars. They've reinforced some mounting points, and then the steering is sport tuned, whatever
Ooh.
that means. I know, right?
Well, Honda's saying this is going to be the best to drive SI they've ever built. Then I think 1999 and 2000 will have something to say about that. So that's quite a bar to set.
Yeah, 20 years ago. Like, well, we'll see if they can pull it off, right?
Yeah. That might just be the Honda purist in me being snotty. I'm sure this will be a lovely car to drive, at the end of the day, compared to a lot of other things you can buy. This is going to be a perfect car for somebody who's looking for something more engaging to drive every single day with plenty of usable power, as I like to say. That's just enough power where you can have fun but not get in trouble, going 80 in a 35 or something like that, trying to roll through the gears. I'm a big
Yeah.
fan of that, so I'm excited to drive this car eventually, and hopefully it impresses me more than the last one. I think it will, just because the new Civic itself is such a solid package over the 10th gen, and the 10th gen was
Mhm.
good. It was a good car. But
Oh,
the
yeah.
11th gen, I think they really hit a sweet spot with, design, packaging, materials, overall refinement. I mean, it's like a baby Honda Accord, and the Accord is one car that I really still like that Honda does well.
Oh, yeah. Accord is probably still the best midsize sedan you can buy. There's some stiff Korean
Mhm.
competition, but easily better than an Altima or a Camry. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, if they're benchmarking the Accord for the Civic, that's a good place to start. But
Yep.
curiously, I'm sure this new Civic is larger than past Accords, right? Like the size
Oh
of
yeah.
cars just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and this is like
Mhm.
this is practically like a full size car, probably from the '80s. But
Oh yeah, I would say even the early 2000s. Look at the size of what a 2001 Accord was. That it's probably dimensionally very close, if not new Civic is larger. I would bet my money on it.
yeah,
I say that
inside
only
you.
because I was just gonna say I say that only because I drive a vehicle from 2001, which was considered a full size sedan, and I'm like, man, like there's mid-size sedans today that feel larger.
Yeah, living the Avalon life. You've got the opposite ends of the spectrum, Sean. You've got the Avalon as your beater car, and then you've got the S2000. So there's no middle ground with you.
Oh no, my friend.
It's
I have the fancy Camry. It's the Lexus ES, not the Avalon.
Oh, that's
Wasn't
right.
based on the Avalon
I'm
yet.
sorry. I forgot. Yes, 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 yes,
There's a
yes.
big difference,
Why was
okay?
I saying Avalon? I know it's not an Avalon.
That's fine.
FFS, as the kids are saying these days. Yeah,
It's okay. You just came
but
back this week. We'll let it slide.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
So yeah, Civic Si, pretty much what we expected. As for tech, you get the usual suspects: Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, 9-inch infotainment system, and like a 12-speaker Bose sound system is available too. No pricing yet, but probably going to start around 25 grand, which is not a bad price. But we'll have to see what Honda officially says. What do you think,
Mhm.
Sean? Is it going to be more than that? Is it going to be less than that?
No, I think it's going to hold steady. I really do. I think that is such an ace up Honda's sleeve to sell a good chunk of SIs is the fact like it's still really affordable. I mean, the average new car costs something like $44,000 in September. Like this is $20,000 less than that. And I mean, look at everything you can get still. This is a fantastic interior. It's going to still be fun to drive. Uh, the the amenities are just bountiful for around $25,000. So the only last thing I will say before we move on from SI is I was looking at, Acura keeps teasing the Integra that they're bringing back.
Hmm.
The last teaser was of Acura showing the Integra's new manual transmission. Obviously, we are very much assuming that the new Integra will be based on the Civic. That's a no-brainer. They haven't confirmed it, but that's going to be what happens. We also know that the Integra is going to be a 5-door hatchback. For a long time, myself and many other people said if Honda's going to get rid of the Civic Coupe Si, then give us a Civic Si hatch. Well, it doesn't look like that's
Yeah.
happening, but it sounds I think this is just me. I have no solid information, any concrete stuff whatsoever. I think one of the Integra models is going to basically be a Civic Si hatch. Like that 1.5 turbo as it's tuned for the Si is going to be in the Integra. Maybe as the base
Hmm.
model, maybe as a mid-range, and then there will be perhaps a Type R version of the Integra. I just figured I'd throw that out there. If people
No,
agree or disagree, go ahead and sound off in the comments. But that's my thinking, is that if you wanted a Civic Si hatch, it's going to be the new Integra.
check out the Acura store and see what they got.
Yes.
Yeah, but very good observations, Sean, and I would agree with you. I think that's a very smart decision for Honda to do. And didn't when they teased the Integra, didn't they show a model that kind of looked like a liftback, or am I mistaken?
Yeah. Yeah, no, yep, for sure. It's going to be a 5-door hatchback, so it's not going to have a traditional trunk like the Civic sedan. It's going to have
Yeah,
very much, it looks like a similar kind of European design that the Civic hatch does. It's not as like
yeah.
rakish as the last one or past generations. Yeah, so you're totally right.
So maybe RSX sort of profile,
Yeah,
possibly. Yeah.
yeah, I'd be okay with that. I'm very much looking forward to seeing it.
You should get an RSX Type S, Sean. Flesh out your
I
garage a
almost,
little bit more.
I almost did once upon a time. So,
Oh
but that's
yeah?
another
Why
story for
didn't
another
you?
day, because it needed a lot of
Got
rust repair. Too much Bondo.
that's
It was already on the
oh,
car.
yes. Oh, no, then it's a good thing you
Yeah.
didn't, because you bought the
Yeah.
best S2000 on the planet, I think, aside from maybe
Oh,
John
yeah.
Wong's, but because this is
Yeah.
blue.
No, I was gonna get this RSX as a winter beater, but I was like, I really don't want that much rust problem already. It sucked
It's
because there's
pre-rusted, so you don't
very
have to worry about it.
yeah, that was kind of my argument in my head, but it sucked because it had so few miles on it. But I was like, I'm gonna go for something comfy and got the Lexus. So
Yeah, nice.
mhm.
Moving along, news that should surprise absolutely no one. According to Experian, Tesla accounted for 63% of all electric vehicle registrations in the first 8 months of the year. 63%. Gosh, that's a lot. And I
Talk
mean,
about
I
having the
realize,
market on lock.
yes, like Tesla owns the mind share, right? And this just underscores that fact. 63%. Um, that was, of course, led by the Model Y and the Model 3. The Model Y had about 105,000 and change registrations. The Model 3, nearly 81,000. And for a little perspective, the third place finisher, the Chevy Bolt, which is a hot car, if you know what I mean, counted for about 23,000 registrations, a little bit less than that. Maybe because they're on catching on fire and you can't park them near other vehicles. Perhaps that's why they're not selling as many. But it also looks a bit like a potato, so that doesn't help. But are you surprised, Sean, by Tesla's dominance here?
No, just very simply
No.
no. I mean, Tesla did an incredible job when it first, arrived on the scene. It built its name, its profile. You know, no one was taking electric vehicles seriously when Tesla was building the Model S, and everyone's like, okay, well, that's a super expensive luxury car. And then
Hmm.
they got the Model 3 through to full scale production. Definitely had a lot of issues. There were stories that Tesla almost folded amid trying to build the Model 3, but they got through it. And now it looks like they're starting to really reap the benefits of being first to market with, I don't like to call the Model 3 an affordable EV anymore. It was when it first launched, because you could get it under 40 grand, stuff like that. Now you're totally looking at over $40,000 for a Model 3, which I guess that's
Yeah.
around the average price of a new car sold. But for a ton of people, that's just not attainable, for a new car.
Yeah.
But no, I'm really, really not surprised at their market dominance. It's as soon as you ask anybody electric car, what's on your mind? It's Tesla. Everyone knows
Yeah.
what a Tesla is or knows about Tesla, or they know Elon Musk just because he's a grand marketer and so good at branding and putting himself out there and being the best cheerleader he can for whether he's doing Tesla, SpaceX, or whatever.
Yeah. Or ginning up that stock price.
Whatever he's doing on Twitter, or
Yes.
I mean he's really good at it. Is what I'll
Yes,
I'll
he
say to
is.
that.
One
Um,
of the smartest people alive, possibly ever. So, yeah, a real
yeah,
visionary and obviously industry changing personality here. But
yeah,
has
you wanna. Oh, sorry, Craig. Go ahead.
no, no, go ahead, Sean.
I was just gonna say on this data, there was a really interesting point in this data. It was that EV registrations year over year jumped. I don't have the full data in front of me. It jumped to it's like 2% year over year. So, or they still made up
Hmm.
just like 2.7% of all new cars sold. Of the year over year increase, the Model Y alone was responsible for like three-fourths of all of that. It
Yeah,
wasn't Volkswagen bringing the ID4 to market. It wasn't Chevrolet introducing the Bolt EUV on top of the EV. And it
yeah,
wasn't just Ford successfully launching and getting the Mustang Mach E into people's hands. It was Tesla. It was Tesla
yep.
churning out these Model Ys, and people want that car. And I'm just like, it's really really incredible to see the momentum that the company
Yeah.
has. Sometimes I sit here and ask myself, like, is Tesla going to run out of people to sell cars to? But increasingly, it looks like they're
Yeah.
doing a fantastic job of converting people who may otherwise, if Tesla didn't exist, I don't know, look at an Audi, an e-tron, or something
Uh-huh.
like that if they were serious about looking at an EV. Like Tesla's just the sexier option for these people, because
Yeah.
they're just doing a great job with building their brand at the end of the day.
Yeah, and like you look at like Instagram or something, and all the young people seem to love Tesla and be all about Tesla and Tesla this, Tesla that. It's become like an iPhone or something almost, right? It's the gotta have, it's the it product. And yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see because a tsunami of EVs are coming. Like you put your hand up to your ear, you can hear that wave. It's churning. It's on its way. It's
Hmm.
gonna come crashing in the next couple years. But is it gonna be enough to, like, topple Tesla? I mean, and it's not a zero-sum game. Maybe I shouldn't say topple Tesla. They don't have to lose for other automakers to sell more EVs because the market share is 3%, right? There's enough room for everyone to sell more, but will people buy other EVs if they're not Teslas? What do you think, Sean?
That is, it makes me think of years ago. Bob Lutz was a huge, outspoken critic of Tesla. Those are his opinions, and I'm not saying they're my opinions. But his argument that he said often was that he basically said Tesla has no competitive advantage. He said they're building an electric car. He said
Mhm.
once other automakers that have been doing this for 100 years or decades, once they start doing it, what's Tesla but another car company? So he basically would say that they have no competitive advantage. Nothing really sets Tesla apart.
Mhm.
Fast forward 5 or 6 years, clearly that's not the case because Tesla has something. You may not be able to put your finger on it. I personally believe it's been unrelenting branding and turning the Tesla name into what you and I may remember, and perhaps some younger people don't, is people lining up for the new iPod Nano or something, or the original
Yep,
iPod.
yep.
You,
The
but
Tesla's the
seriously,
new Apple.
it feels that way. That it's that same kind of the feelings around it. People are like, gotta have it. Like what people are recording YouTube videos of. I just got the latest over the air update that added car karaoke and stuff like that. Like you don't see people doing that for the Bolt EUV that we have in the garage, tucked safely away from other vehicles while we wait for a new battery. Um, you don't see people being like, "Oh, there's a new over the air update for a Bolt EUV." Like no one cares. It's a
Yeah,
great car sitting out there, but it doesn't have that sex appeal like Tesla does.
yeah.
It's a really wild phenomenon.
It'll be interesting to see if competitors like Rivian or Lucid um, can achieve the same thing, and I suspect they won't be able to. As cool as the Lucid Air is, as awesome as the Rivian products appear to be, I don't know because Tesla's like a genericized trademark. What do you when you blow your nose? What do you reach for? You grab a Kleenex, right?
Kleenex. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's a brand. It's not, nobody says, can pass the facial tissue, please? No, it's a
Yeah.
Kleenex. Same with like
Yep.
Band-Aid or aspirin or Coke.
Yeah.
If you're in the South, you want a Coke.
Yep.
It's like
Yeah.
Tesla is synonymous with EV for people. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens in the next few years. But yeah,
Yeah.
not surprising. Tesla makes up such a huge percentage of electric vehicle registration, 63% for the first 8 months of the year. Um,
Mhm.
but we'll have to see. We got an F-150 coming out, and that's always obviously a big deal. So maybe Ford can crack into some of those, chip away at that lead Tesla has. We'll see. But
Mhm.
anyway, while you're watching, thank you so much, of course. But when you're done, check out some of our other videos. We've got a brand new review of the 2022 Toyota Tundra. The inimitable Emmy Hall drove that and had some very nice things to say about it. So give that video a look. We've also got a review of the 2022 Lexus NX, which is a small luxury SUV. It's worth your time as well. Andrew Kroc reviewed that one. Give it a look. We've got a lot of great stuff on the Roadshow proper YouTube channel. So if you're a subscriber to the Roadshow News channel, consider, extending, jumping ship a little bit to the traditional Roadshow channel because there's a lot of good stuff going on there. But
Yes.
speaking of good stuff, Sean, we've got a Chevy Corvette in the news. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, this was perhaps maybe the final teaser, maybe one of the final teasers before Chevy finally reveals the Z06 that they already showed in full, unveiled, but didn't provide details on. Uh, yeah, there's part of the video here that they showed, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, this was all about teasing its 8,600 RPM red line. You know, it's basically all but confirmed in the worst kept secret that there will be a dual overhead cam, flat plane crank V8 under the hood. And that's what this is all about in the video, which you can see on Chevrolet's YouTube channel. And we also have it on the roadshow.com. We wrote a story about this. It's a very exotic sounding car. It does not sound like your father's Corvette. It's a very weird sound to hear coming from what is badged as a Corvette. It sounds, more like Ferrari or something like that with that,
Yep.
higher pitch and whatnot. But they're just being very coy about the fact that this new engine is coming, and I'm really excited. I'm glad to see the Corvette, making some big changes because these will this is just a guess. Again, I don't have any solid information. I would venture a guess and say that once this C8 generation is done, a C9 Corvette will probably be an electric supercar, because GM is all in on electrifying totally battery electric everything, so
Yeah.
I could conceivably see that, we'll get a Z06 and, maybe another ZR1 and a Zora could be like a send off ultimate performance, variant. So I say enjoy these cars because I mean, it could be the last of the internal combustion engine for them conceivably. And I'm not saying that's
Yeah.
happening in 2 years or something like that, but who knows? 2030 rolls around. It's time for a new Corvette. Will GM want to invest in the internal combustion engine by that point? Who knows?
Who knows? But flat plane crank V8 sounds amazing.
It does.
You get a little taste of it in the video, this zippy exhaust sound, which, much like a Shelby GT350 or something, is like you said, Sean, just a little bit higher pitched.
Hmm.
Still very cool. Can't tell much, but Corvette's Z06 probably going to have more of everything, more aerodynamics, bigger brakes, more speed, more fun, more cost. But hey, good stuff costs money. So,
That is
um,
true. And actually, as this video rolls, you will see they also teased a Z06 convertible in this video. At one point, there is a drop top version of this car
yes.
that they show in the like a window reflection or something like that. So that's cool to see. It wasn't clear if they were gonna take this car and do a convertible version, just because convertibles, they've really fallen out of favor in the market.
Yeah.
Obviously there's the Corvette Stingray convertible, but then you got to perhaps justify like, well, we're going to build more convertibles with the Z06 powertrain, and bean counters might be like, why would you do that?
Yeah. So yes, more the Ultimate Corvette set to debut on October 26th, so just a few short days away. And it should
Hmm.
be pretty exciting. I'm most interested in the powertrain myself because I don't know that GM's ever built a flat plane crank V8. So be interesting to see what they did there.
Mm, yeah, I can't. Yeah, no. I mean, everything that comes to mind for me is obviously the good old pushrod V8. You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
I mean that was Chevy and GM's thing. Small block, big block.
Oh yeah.
So I
They
can't think of anything
perfected
else
it.
that comes to mind. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm not a huge fan of the C6 Corvette in general, just because it feels cheap
Mhm.
inside. I don't mind how it looks, um, but man, a C6 Z06 with an LS7, like I've never driven one, but that's something I would like to drive, and like I could be like, yeah, I would buy one if I just had money to throw away. Like everyone should have
Just
a big or a small block V8 manual transmission experience, which I fortunately had with my Chevy
yes.
SS, and it was delightful.
You did. The magic of the much derided pushrod, although
Yes.
it's arguably the best solution because look at how small
Cor-
like an LS family V8 is compared to a Ford Coyote. You can't fit a Coyote in anything because it's so damn wide, right? Because you've
Mhm.
got those giant quad cam heads, the timing chains, 8 million moving parts. And the Coyote is a beautiful engine. I love the Coyote in all its forms. But like the LS is just a simpler, smaller, more displacement. I mean, there's so many benefits enabled by
Mhm.
the push rod, which people like to dump on. So I'll get off my soapbox again. Sorry.
I was gonna say Craig will totally go on a tangent about like little internals and things, and be like, "This is why this little socket is better than this other little socket here." That's
Yeah.
that you 100%. It's excellent. Never change.
Yes. Yes. Oh, thank you. I don't plan on it.
Good.
But Nissan plans on changing. It's a good segue for our next story, Sean. Kill all the cars because we only want SUVs. The Nissan Leaf electric hatchback is going away. And rumor has it it'll be replaced by another all electric vehicle, but an SUV sometime around 2025. Um,
Mhm.
the Leaf is sort of like the OG electric car in a lot of ways. It was sort of an
Yeah.
an early adopter is not the right term for that, but an early introduction for a lot of people to electric vehicles, and it's been around a while, and it's certainly been surpassed by other products in the market these days. Um, and consequently doesn't sell very much. So it's understandable Nissan might want to get rid of that. And what is hot right now? SUVs. Everybody wants one. I mean, Chevy turned the Bolt into an SUV. So if Chevy can do it, Nissan can do it as well. So
Mhm.
supposedly the Leaf is going to be replaced by something that's a little bit higher riding and more utility, but we have to see because they do have the
Yeah.
Aria coming out, right?
Yes.
Yes, sometime in
Just
2022.
wanted to answer your
Um,
question.
well, yeah, you could have expounded a little bit, Sean,
Oh, here, well, let me. Yes,
but
the Aria is coming. Yes, it was delayed from this year. It was supposed to be at dealers and in customers' hands by now. But now it's coming. I think they're shooting for early 2022. I think it's going to launch first in Japan this December, and then North America is on deck for early 2022. So yeah, I mean, if you're gonna start cashing in on the SUV trend, the Aria would be your midsize, and then I guess you could turn the Leaf into a compact SUV, and then go from there and start building more electric SUVs, because SUVs all the time, everywhere,
woo,
always
yeah, got my pom poms.
SUVs.
SUCK SU. Yeah, I'm sad
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
So yes, maybe they'll bring back the Juke nameplate and it'll be the electric Juke. Think
Yeah, who
about
knows? The
that.
Juke was a cool little quirky thing. Um,
It
but
was it was a quirky little thing. It sure was.
yes, it was on this report though. So far, I haven't heard anything confirmed for North America about the Leaf dying. Basically, Nissan's boss in charge over in Europe confirmed that the Leaf would go away in its place because they build the Leaf in a few places. They don't just build it in Tennessee here in the US, they also build it in the UK. And part of an agreement to keep building cars in the UK was Leaf dies, we build new electric SUV here. So, no final confirmation about here in the US, but it seems very, very likely. Like, why would you keep a hatchback in the US and then sell an SUV in Europe? If they're going to get rid of the Leaf, it's going to die everywhere. Maybe it would stay
Yeah.
in Japan. I don't know. So,
Yeah.
and Nissan did not return a request for comment when I tried to learn a little bit more. So they're keeping their
Well,
mouths
that's not
shut
very
for now.
nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty
What the heck?
rude. They could have
We're
just
nice
said
people
bugger
here.
off, but they couldn't even
They could have just
respond.
they could have just told me we don't talk about future product. We don't speculate about future product,
Yep.
but they didn't.
Which I always laugh. It's the standard boilerplate, but it's like, all right, I gotta ask, so I guess just tell me. Come on,
Yes.
spit it out.
Yeah.
You can't
Yep.
comment. Good enough. Then I could put it in the
Thank
story and
you.
be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. That's how it goes. But hey, like you
Yeah.
said, we got to ask. That's our jobs.
I mean, I guess we don't have to. Like, it's pretty well known, but we do because it's the right thing to do.
Yes.
Uh,
Indeed.
but yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a lot of great stories this week, Sean. For the
Yes.
news recap here.
Oh yeah, there were a lot of good topics that we wanted to talk about, but we're running out of time. But like I always like to say, we have so much more over on theroadshow.com, and that includes just today, or just on Thursday, I should say, Ford revealed Maverick fuel economy figures, Maverick hybrid fuel economy figures, and the city figure is 42 mpg, and overall, it's more efficient than a Honda Civic, which I was like, wow. We also have another video over here on the Roadshow News YouTube channel that you can see that'll recap all of that good stuff. Craig also wrote about the fact that, again, more Maverick stuff. The Maverick Hybrid will probably sell out in just a couple of weeks. You won't be able to order one until much later in 2022. You can read about that on theroadshow.com. And Toyota is opening up its big fat wallet and investing $3.4 billion with a B, as in boy, to start battery production here in the US. And you can read all of those details again at theroadshow.com.
Very cool. Maybe they're actually going to try doing electric cars now rather than pretending they don't exist.
Well, hopefully they don't all sound like a fax machine BZ4X. That's the last thing I'll
Yeah,
say on
right.
that.
Yes. Well, very good. Anyway, that will do it for today's show. Sean, thank you so very much for your help and expertise. It's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Right back at you.
Thank you. That's very kind. That's the nicest thing anyone said
I'm
to me today.
good. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Also, thanks to the video crew for making all the technical stuff happen, the pictures and the sound and like the editing and the posting. I don't know how to do any of that. So thanks to those guys. And of course, most importantly, thank you for watching Roadshow News Recap, where we dissect and discuss the most important automotive stories of the past week. Thank you again for watching, and we will see you next time.